said Shiva to Parvati. Through dhyana, one can attain the highest spiritual success, even without nyasa, puja, japa, and purusharana. Other practices, you can take these for a fact. Only after one is established in dhyana can one attain nirvikalpa samadhi. If one is established in samadhi, liberation or salvation will come as a matter of course. Tantra, being a practical process, does not recognize any external practices or show displays, and in particular does not recognize idol worship as the best process of sadhana. Even the Vedas, although they contain reference to idols, do not approve of idol worship, and Tantra is much more liberal, much more psychological than the Vedas. According to Tantra, idol worship is also a process of sadhana, but the crudest process. Uttamo Brahma Sadbhavo Madhyama Dhyana Dharana Yapastuti Syadama Murti Puja Dama Dama. Ideation on Brahma is the best. Dhyana and Dharana are second best. Repetitious incantation and eulogious prayer are the worst. And idol worship is the worst of the worst. Tantra declares that Shiti Stad Shabda Laksharta Shita Ekarasha Sharupini, the supreme entity, is fundamentally Shiti, consciousness. It is an unbroken flow of cognition. The supreme entity is a continuous flow of cognition, only attainable through the process of incantation. So how could Tantra consider the worship of idol or matter an ideal type of sadhana? In Tantra, there are three types of sadhana: pravriti sadhana, nivriti sadhana, and a combination of the two. The crude and horrifying practices of Pishasha sadhana, Pishasha goal, are part of pravriti sadhana. The goal of Pishasha sadhana is to establish supremacy over material forces. Even one acquires certain powers and thereby the possibility of some purely temporary happiness. After practicing this sadhana for some time, one's degeneration is inevitable, for it is based on an external outlook. Pishasha sadhakas will suffer the inevitable fate of being reborn as animals or being converted into wood, earth, or stone. Tantra's Nivriti Marga is the highest type of practice. Through this process, a spiritual aspirant attains elevation step by step. Nirvana or Mahanirvana Mukti or Moksha, liberation or emancipation, non-qualified liberation, in the terminology first of Buddhist Tantra, then of Hindu Tantra, can be attained through this process. The path, which mixes pravriti and nivriti, is called the path of Upavidya. Nivriti Marga or Vidya Tantra brings about the highest excellence in the spiritual sphere, but the mixed path of pravriti and nivriti brings neither degeneration nor progress. Hence it can be said that practitioners of Upavidya simply waste their valuable time. Tantra's freedom from superstition and its psychological approach are clearly illustrated in the last few lines of the Mahanirvana Tantra. Balari Danavat Sarvarupa Namida Kalpanam Kevalam Brahmanishtayaha Su Samukto Natra Samshayaha Mrishila Darvadi Murta Vishvaro Buddhayo Krishyantas Pasadyanam Vinamoksham Nayantite Manasat Kapita Murti Nrinam Shenmoksha Sadhani Swapna Labdena Rayena Rajano Manavastada Namukti Rapana Damu Dupava Shashatairapi Brahmaeva Hamati Yanatva Mukto Bhavati Dehabrit Vayu Parna Karnato Yam Ratino Moksha Bhyabhagina Apishet Panaga Mukta Pashu Pakshi Yaleshara. Translation of the first four couplets. Meditation on the names and forms of idols is a kind of child's play. Only one whose mind is reverently concentrated on Brahma will win liberation. There is no doubt about it. Those who think that Paramapurusha is confined within idols made of clay, stone, metal, or wood, are simply torturing their bodies with penances. They will surely not attain salvation without self-knowledge. If an idol produced out of the human imagination can bring about salvation, then can a person, by creating a kingdom in his dreams, become a king in the real sense? Liberation is not attainable by penance, sacrificial rituals, or hundreds of fasts. Living beings attain liberation when they realize, I am Brahma. To realize the greatness of Tantra, one will have to carry on spiritual practices. A non-practitioner can never penetrate into the mysteries of Tantra. Some people are under the wrong impression that as the practice of Tantra is based on an ardent love for ideology, there is no room for devotion, or if there is an element of devotion, it is a very minor one, but this is not correct. On the contrary, Tantra's love of ideology is dependent on Parabhakti, absolute devotion. Hence it has been said, Apishet Sudura Sharo Bhajate Mamanyabhak Sopi Papa Vinir Mukta Murchate Bhava Bandhanat. If even the most wicked person worship me with a concentrated mind, I will liberate them from the three bondages, physical, psychic, and spiritual. And finally, regarding Parama Brahma, Tantra has said, Om Namaste Sate Sarva Lokash Rayaya Namaste Shita Vishvarupat Makaya Namo Dvaita Tattvaya Mukti Pradaya Namo Brahmane Vyapini Nirgunaya Tarekam Sharanyam Tarekam Varenyam Tarekam Yagat Karanam Vishvarupam Tarekam Yagat Katr Patre Pratrantam Tarekam Param Nishalam Nirvikalpam Bharyam Bharyam Nishanam Vishanam Gati Prani Nam Pavanam Pavananam Mahajay Paranam Niyantri Tarekam Paresham Param Rakshakam Rakshakanam Paresha Prabhu Sarva Rupa Vinashinani Deshya Sarvendriya Yagam Yastatya Ashinthyakshara Vyapaka Vyakta Tattva Yagadvasa Karisha Payada Payat Tarekam Shmaramashtadigam Yapamashtarekam Yagat Sakshirupam Nama Mama Tarekam Nidhanam Niralam Bhamisham Bhavamod Bodhiputam Sharanam Rajamaha Mahanirvana Tantra. By salutations to the self-existent entity, the supreme shelter of all the created worlds, my salutations to the supreme cognition, the supreme one, the absolute one in the form of this expressed universe, my salutations to the supreme non-dualistic entity, the distributor of salvation, my salutations to Brahma, the all-pervasive and non-attributional entity, my salutations to that supreme entity who is the ultimate refuge of all, the supreme adorable one, the primordial cause of the universe, the one who has deliberately assumed the form of the universe. My salutations to that which has been creating, procreating and dissolving this universe, protecting and dissolving this universe. My salutations to that supreme unmovable entity, the one without an alternative. My salutations to that which is the fear of all fears, who is the dread of all dreadful entities, the supreme terminus of all living beings, the purity of all purities, the supreme controller, controlling even the highest dignitaries of the universe. That supreme entity is the subject of all subjects, the supreme lord of everything. All the objects or forms ultimately merge in him. He cannot be shown to anybody. He is the supreme truth, inaccessible to the senses. He is beyond the capacity of thought. He is intransmutable. He is the most pervasive entity, yet at the same time he is unmanifest. It is he who has given expression to the expressed universe, yet at the same time he is above the fundamental factors of which the universe is made. Him only we remember. On him only we contemplate. My salutations to that Supreme Entity, the witnessing force of this expressed universe. We seek shelter in that Supreme Ship of the universe, who is the most dependable shelter but who has no shelter of his own.